Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the managing director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and this person asked, he said, so Ben, you've been kind of critical of certain aspects of the government out here, and I think that's something of an understatement in many ways. But and he said, is there anything you like about the things the government's doing? Well, you know me, I'm kind of a weird libertarian, so I'm never overly pro-government. That's just sort of my default position. I am aware, you need some, but I often think what I think some government is practically no government to other people. But setting that all aside, in any event, I was talking to my friend, and he said, you talk a lot about what you're critical of, but is there anything that you've found has been a positive aspect to this government? And my response was, yeah, actually, and he was surprised about just how adamantly positive I was about, the title of this video, which is the government's response to tourism. And I think this government, that since we've seen this coalition form, this government take shape back in whatever it was, September, they have gone out of their way to make tourism a priority, and I think they've done a pretty good job. We're now on the other side of Songkran. We're sort of going more into the doldrums out here, the true low season, and I think we can now kind of look back a little bit more objectively at the high season, and this government had a lot to do with the success that we saw in the high season, and I think it's important to point that out. Sort of good behavior should be, noted, because you kind of want to see more of that. You want to encourage that kind of thing. And, I would like to encourage the government to, continue to support initiatives that would be positive for tourism here in Thailand. Now, that said, when I read these articles, like we talked about one previously last week regarding so-called over-tourism, I start wondering if, perhaps our current prime minister might be spouting a little too much of these talking points from the World Economic Forum, because as somebody pointed out to me, it just sort of seems like anytime anybody starts getting into a positive feedback loop economically, they start making some money or they start getting some traction, this WEF thinking seems to come in, where it's like, no, I have to stop that dead in its tracks. Again, as we discussed in that video, when did anybody ever use the term over-tourism in the past? I never even heard of that, because it's not a word, by the way. It's a made-up word, and as I said in that video, anytime you start seeing made-up words, start looking hard at who's making them up and then start trying to figure out why. But that being said, again, I can't commend the present coalition, present government, for their efforts at helping with tourism here. I think they've done a laudable job at getting the numbers back to where we wanted them. I think we beat expectations. I mean, I was reading somewhere that we were back to 2019 levels, looking back on this past high season. And then again, these WEF talking points start coming out of, well, over-tourism, we need to be worried about that. Do we really? I mean, I do understand now. I think even other folks who might even be in the opposition now have talked about the necessity to perhaps start promoting more sort of, I hesitate to say off-brand, but, in the sense of like off-Broadway, some less premier, destinations, in the sense that promoting provinces that, people, especially tourists, may not otherwise know about, because we're starting to see some real issues in places like Phuket, Pattaya, Bangkok, Chiang Mai, even Hua Hin, Samui, the kind of usual suspects of tourism here in Thailand. We're seeing a lot of, there may be some genuine concerns regarding overcrowding. There may be just too many people showing up. And, this is a problem we want to have, by the way, here in Thailand. So again, it all stems from the government and others, and just general market demand being in Thailand's favor with regard to tourism. But that said, what I would say to that is, well, then what we need to do is start promoting other parts of Thailand, so that people say, hey, I've been there once and I really liked going to Jomtien Beach, but hey, maybe next time I'll go to Krabi, or I'll go down to Koh Samet, or I'll head over to Trat, or maybe up country, I'll go over to Kanchanaburi and check out the old bridge on the River Kwai kind of thing, or something of this nature. Again, these are problems we want to have, but let's not get into a negative feedback loop where we start talking about things like, over tourism and these kind of notions, which to my mind are both silly and counterproductive.